Hello campers, I am so glad that you have joined us for Lasting Impressions Summer Camp. I cannot believe it's been 5 years that we have done camp. I'm so glad you have joined us. Many of you probably know my mom, Lori Jacobs. She went all over the country teaching card classes and loved every minute of it. But she always had a way of adding magic to anything she did. Everything always had that extra touch. And so I want to keep that in mind as we have our card camp this year. And to start us off, I have got a magic trick for you guys. Listen closely. This is our little grandson, and he at the very beginning says, "Now you see it." So listen carefully.
I see it. Magic.
I'll tell you, grandkids are the best. We thoroughly enjoy ours. We have 4 now, and it's so much fun. So wasn't that the cutest little magic trick? We just loved, I have watched it over and over again. He just makes me laugh. So I will see you in class. Hello everybody, and welcome to our camp studio. I can't believe this is our 5th year of camp, but I'm so glad you've joined us. I wanted to just first go through our camp, our book and journal. I hope you've got yours out and had a chance to look at it. Some things about camp are always the same, and then some things change. One of those things, we have our camp honor code. Those are always the same themes, but underneath you'll find different quotes, and one I want to talk about today is just be you. An original is worth more than a copy. So remember, the things that you do are original to you, and I think that is really fun to celebrate. And don't be afraid to make your own version of whatever card we're doing in camp. In fact, today I'm going to show you 2 different cards. First, let me tell you, wow, it's really tricky doing Christmas in July as week 1, but I'm glad you've joined us, and I appreciate your patience with our uncertainties. But today we'll start with 2 different cards, and I have 2 different versions to show each of them to you. So let me grab our originals. Oh, I put them close already. I just love this color scheme, and in fact, when I was thinking about the theme of our camp or what we should name it, at first I had Christmas magic, because Christmas is just magical. But I loved these little cards, and I loved the color scheme. I'm like, this is more than just Christmas. This is our whole winter magic. So I'm looking for a whole winter full of magic this year. But I loved the color scheme. So I think the card we'll work on first is our little reindeer with our fa la 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 la. I wish I could sing. I would sing it to you. But we're going to start with this card. And I thought, I really love mixed media and mixing different papers. And so that is the approach I took. And I wanted to just add a little more contrast to the background with some ripped paper. But often when you rip paper, see, you have this white border. And I didn't want that. It just felt to be distracting a little bit. So what I did is I really paid attention as to how I was ripping my paper. So I noticed if I tore down like this, then this piece I was ripping did not have all of that white border that showed. And if I were on this side, it's the piece that comes up. So when you kind of realize that, then you can give your paper the edge that you want. And you might want that white edge, then you could ink it or do many things. So I just tore 4 little pieces of paper, and I kind of have already laid them out for you. I ripped 4 different pieces. They're kind of different lengths. They're certainly not perfect rectangles, but it just gives me a foundation that is a little different than what we've worked with before. But what I found, I really like to use a glue stick, and that is because then I could get to the very outside edges, because I wanted this paper to feel like it's just one sheet of paper. And so I did that. So I glued down everything really well. And then, oh, you know what? I am out of practice of camp. I can see that. So let me show you the supplies that are for this card. We have our scattered French blue paper. I really love these spattered papers. They are just so fun to work with. Then we have the woodland stripe pennants and card cutout 432. We use the fa la la out off of it. And then our cute little reindeer. I think he is so cute. I have just loved having been able to work with him. So those are the supplies we started with. And then I did use the spattered inchworm for this background here. But of course you could use anything that you wanted to do. So I've gone ahead and I cut out the reindeer and I have him ready to go, but I wanted to show you a few tips about creating him. He is this middle size here. So there's, I think these are the two same sizes, and then there's a medium size and the baby size. So we're using this medium size here, but I want to show you a little bit of a trick in case you're new to cutting out. I often will just cut out the little section I'm working with, but this is the secret. When I'm cutting out something that is more fussy like this one, remember to turn your paper and not your scissors. And then another thing, when you have two pieces, like we have two little pieces for this reindeer's antlers, but if I cut them out as one piece, they're a lot easier to work with. And if you notice, I am turning my paper and not my scissors. And it's also a good idea to remember to not cut way back here on your scissors, but you just kind of work in the middle area. And you can see you just twist your papers around. And I like to leave just a little border of the background. It really makes things stand out, but feel free to cut them out completely if you want as well. So once I have this guy cut out, we'll be ready to assemble, which I have already done just so we could save some time. And you guys are already better card makers than I am. So you can see on the back of this one how we have his antlers, and it's just one piece. And I did use mounting tape to put that on because I wanted to give a little extra dimension to that, so it really makes him pop. And then I also, instead of doing the fa la la, I did ho ho. Now we're using that in the the tags on Friday. So be aware, if you use this, then you'll just swap the fa la la out for your tag on Friday, and that will work too. So just keep that in mind. So I either use double-sided tape or mounting tape, usually when I'm positioning things on my card. I'm going to have him be on mounting tape, but I'm going to have this one, I'm going to use double-sided tape, and it will just bring a little more dimension. So I am just going to use my double-sided tape. And I'm just going to position that on my card. And then I'm going to use mounting tape to hook on the little deer. And you don't need a ton of it. I usually just use a couple of pieces because I do like the dimension you get as the paper just takes on its own natural curve as well. So now I'll just position my little deer, and I love the contrast in the red and green. So you can see how different just changing the colors really makes the card feel different. And then for one little added touch, I was going to add a little holly leaf. And there's holly leaves that are available on its own sheet, or there's also a few tucked in here. I happened to grab one that is like, oh, I don't remember, maybe $4.68. It's the card cut out, just newly released, that's just full of holly berries. But any little holly leaf will be cute. And you could decide whether you want to put it up here, down here, just however you want to position. I think I'll position it down here. And I am going to use mounting tape for that as well, just because I like to give that little added dimension, a little added pop. So I have my ho ho ho. I just used double-sided tape so you can see it's not stuck down perfectly along the outside edges, but that is good. It just gives a little dimension. The paper strips, I did use the glue stick, and I went out to the very edge. Make sure you put something under your where you're working so you don't get glue on everything else. But I just made sure the edges were coated well, and then I stuck the little deer on it. And I used mounting tape on him too, so that added some more dimension. So I really think this is cute. I love how the different color schemes look, but yet it's basically the same card. Oh, I also used the collage paper. So that is a really fun paper to work with as well. Okay, should we move on to our next card? I am really excited. I grab my pieces. So this is the next card we're going to be working on. I love that little polar bear. And in the pictures, I also added this little Let It Snow. And I just loved that added color, the added pop that it brought to the card. But either way you want to do it is just fine. So this is the original card. And I just have a few little tips that I want to bring to your attention. And first, I will show you the different supplies we use. So we have our spattered flint French blue tongue twister, our card cutout 471, our reindeer, and the polar bear 470. Now you can mix and match the scarf colors however you want to do that. Our same card cutout 432, and for the Let It Snow, and then card cutout 343, and this is for the little frame outside here. So let's get started. So one thing I want to show you, I really love working with frames and how it just kind of sets the card, it just kind of finishes it off. So I just want to point out a couple of tips. On this one, I cut out the frame on the inside as well. So what I have found is easiest is if I cut the inside out first while it's a bigger paper, it makes it a little easier. Of course, you can still do it without, but it's just a little easier. So, and when you're working with an X-Acto knife, make sure you have something under that protects your work surface. And then also, I find I have more control if I pull it towards me. So I will just rotate my paper. Now, you're not going to make it a perfect straight line. Of course you could use a straight edge, but I kind of think the whimsy nature is kind of part of the fun. So I don't worry about following the lines perfectly. If I go a little out, that's okay. It just adds to its character. Only one more side to cut here. And then you can see how that comes out. So now we have our open frame like we do on this one. And then you just cut the rest out with your scissors. So that's easy. You know how to do that. But the thing I wanted to show you, I have one that is all cut out already. And this time I want to put a little background on the frame. So I cut out a piece of paper that's just a little bit bigger than this opening. And now I'm just going to hook it onto my frame. I'm just adding a little double-sided tape here. You could use glue stick, whatever's works good for you. Okay, and then I just position. Oh wait, before we do that, we need to position our other pieces. And this time I thought it'd be fun if we switched directions. So I'm going to kind of position my little deer like that. And like so. Now I need to put I'm going to put just tape on my little polar bear. Now notice the scarves are a separate piece, and so I've added foam mounting tape, so it gave that dimension, as well as I did that with the antlers here. So now I am just going to, I double-sided him down, so he is relatively flat with just his scarf popping. And now I'm going to just add a little mounting tape to my deer. I'm going to position him just about like that. So he has a little added pop to him. And now this time I am not going to position the deer and the bear on top of the frame. I'm actually going to frame them like they're in the picture. I'm going to scoot the deer. As I just noticed, whoops, little tangle. Oh my goodness, little tangled there. So as I look at how my positioning would be, I'm going to scoot the deer over just a little bit more so you can see part of his other ear. Just bring it in a little tighter. Let's see how that feels. Okay, I think that feels good. And you'll want to just, I'm going to put a little bit of tape on my frame because the position. Now, if you want, you'll notice the polar bear is just sticking out a little bit out of the picture. So I'm just going to trim off a little bit of the polar bear's arm. Everything else seems to be tucked in good, but I think that is such a cute, it looks so different than the original card we made. I'm just going to hurry and cut a piece of paper so we can mount it on a card and you can see the difference. So if you don't have a paper trimmer, something like this one, I always get this one confused, where you can flip out and measure your papers, it makes it really convenient. And I'm just going to measure, this card is 4 1/4. Oh, but 5 1/2 is the direction I'm cutting. So 5 1/2 makes it so easy, these paper cutters. So if you don't have one, I would look into getting something like that. Or use whatever you're familiar with and comfortable. Now you could use and score that first. I tend to just go ahead and position it how it is, just fold it. Okay, but you can see now we have our 2 cards to compare. How different they look, even though it's mostly the same supplies. We've just added a background. I'll hurry and tape this down. We've just added a background to the frame so you don't see the paper through it. And we've mounted, goodness, I didn't, there we go. And we have mounted the figures, our little characters, under the frame instead of sitting on top. So you can just see how cute, and you can add the Let It Snow. I didn't like it as much down here because you don't see his legs, so you could do it here. I even thought it was cute up here. So if you wanted to add your little sentiment, you could on either card. So I hope you can create and experiment with these supplies so you can create your own version. Thanks so much for stopping by. I'm glad we're at camp, and we'll see you tomorrow. Happy camping!